Welcome to the Grow Your Business and Grow Your Wealth podcast with Gary Heldt. Gary is an expert in helping business owners put together a plan that will provide a better future for their businesses, themselves, and their families. On the podcast, Gary interviews other professionals who share his vision, and together they share secrets and strategies any business owner can use to build a better financial foundation for your business and your life.
Welcome back to the podcast. Today, my guest is Dan Sheeks, who's a high school teacher in Denver, Colorado, and he's the founder of Sheeks Freaks. Good morning, Dan.
Good morning, Gary. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to be here.
Great. So, Dan, tell us some about yourself and, what made you get into teaching?
I've been a high school business teacher for 19 years, which is crazy. Time does fly by. The reason I got into teaching, I'm not sure I can even actually answer that question. It was a little bit random. I originally went to school to be in business, got a business degree, but didn't decide to become a teacher until my late 20s. So I went back to school to get a teaching license. And so I started teaching at age 29. At some point in my 20s, I was traveling around quite a bit, and I realized that making a ton of money wasn't the end all be all, and that wasn't the only thing that life had to offer. I think I realized that I wanted a job that would be more fulfilling, more rewarding, that I had a sense of fulfillment from, like I was making a difference. I had friends that were teachers, and it just seemed, and then I found out, actually, this is probably the thing, I found out I was passionate about marketing. That's what my degree was in. And I found out that I could teach marketing in high school. I did not know that was a thing. But many bigger schools now offer all kinds of business classes. So once I found out that I could still pursue or be involved in my passion for marketing, but also make a difference by teaching in high school, I went back to school, became a teacher, and love my job today. Been doing it for quite a while.
Great. I think it takes a very patient person to teach, especially in high school. So I definitely commend you for that. Tell us about Sheeks Freaks.
Yeah, so Sheeks Freaks came around a couple years ago. One of the classes I teach is personal finance. My personal opinion is that is a class that every young person should have to take. It should be required for high school graduation. It's so important. But many states and school districts and schools do not require that class, including mine. Mm-hmm. The state of Colorado, where I live, my school district, my school, they do not require that class. So it is an elective. So only a small percentage of students will take the personal finance class. But I just knew it was so important. And then I'd say about 5 or 6 years ago, my wife and I became involved with the FIRE movement. If you're familiar with that, I'm not sure if your listeners are, but in a nutshell, it's just the idea that if you make money decisions differently, if you handle your money differently than the average American, you can change your path so that you don't have to wait until you're 65 to retire. You can retire before you turn 65, that early retirement piece. So we really got into real estate investing and index fund investing and passive income. And then once I got into that world and realized, wow, there are many different ways to think about your financial future and to plan for your financial future, I just wanted to pass that along to young people because that's where my passion is. I think everyone should know about these things, but for me, my niche is, I like to say 15 to 25. So I started with just a blog site. It's grown quite a bit. We now have a mastermind group. So there's an online community. We have an app, a Sheeks Freaks app, where young people in that age range can come together, be around like-minded people, and talk about all those different concepts: passive income, mindset, entrepreneurship, frugality, early financial independence, and just grow and hold each other accountable. And it's pretty amazing to see what they can do once they're around people who think just like them.
So in going through this, I mean, when you first kind of, started this and you tried to roll this out to the kids that you, I'm assuming it was, some of this was started with the high school kids that you had at the time. How was it received at that time?
When I first started it, I actually kind of kept my two worlds separate. So the students in my high school, I definitely mentioned, that I had this blog site and I had a mastermind group, but there wasn't a lot of involvement. And so, but I was connecting with young people just through different online communities, mostly Bigger Pockets, which I'm a big fan of, which is a real estate investing online community. And so when I first built the mastermind, most of the young people coming to it were from connections I would make outside. Now I definitely have, students now who are or have been in my classroom physically at my high school who are part of the community and are involved. But in the beginning, I just wanted to reach more students that weren't in my classroom. I was passing along this information to kids in the classroom, and I felt good about that, but I just knew there was so much more I could do with a website and internet, social media. So I kind of started reaching a different group of young people through those platforms.
Right. In doing this, what and working with young individuals on this, what has it taught you? Because I mean, I know for me personally, when I do any type of educational seminars or anything like that and talking to people, I always learn something from it. So with working with young individuals on this, what have you learned from it?
A lot. I think I've learned that it's that famous Jim Rohn quote where you are the people you spend the most time with. Mm-hmm. There are many young people, they are a minority, but there are many young people out there who are really interested in their financial future. And topics like passive income and even real estate investing, definitely stock market investing, cryptocurrencies, things like this. But they're few and far between, right? So in their home groups, in their hometowns, they likely don't have anyone that they know, like a best friend or something that's equally as passionate as they are. And so that's what the Sheeks Freaks community is for, is to bring them together in a place where we have weekly Zoom calls so they can meet each other virtually. Actually, some of the members have even traveled across country to meet each other and formed lifelong friendships and partnerships, and some pretty amazing relationships have come out of the community. But it's about being around like-minded. So I've learned that is so true. You have to place yourself in a small group of people who are either where you're at or where you want to be, so that you can reach those goals. If you're not doing that, then you're not maximizing your potential. The other thing I've learned is a lot about just entrepreneurship. I had never started a business before, and Sheeks Freaks is not something I started to make a lot of money. My goal isn't to get rich off of the company, but I do want it to be self-fulfilling, and there are quite a bit of costs involved, especially with developing the app and the new platform that we're on. And so, yeah, running a small business outside of my normal job, I've learned a ton about entrepreneurship and that mindset, which I think I've always had, but never just took action with. Mm-hmm. And it's been fun. It's been a fun ride. It's been at times very difficult.
I bet.
A lot of hurdles, a lot of roadblocks, but you just keep powering through.
Right. So, tell us some about the program itself. How can, young people get involved with this with you?
Yeah, so the program or the community itself, to get involved, all a young person has to do is go to the main website, sheeksfreaks.com, and then there's a link right at the top where they'll find all the information. So it's pretty easy to get involved. There's a free membership level, which has a lot of value, and there always will be a free membership level. Again, my goal isn't to make a ton of money. If someone's just a free member, they're going to be connected with tons of people and get a lot of value. There is a paid membership level, which is, has a few more features involved in it. And it's $105 a year. So it's not like a crazy amount.
Right.
But once they're in, free or paid, they'll have access to the weekly Zoom calls. They'll have access to other people. They can DM them. There's several different smaller groups inside the community, about 30 or 40. So depending on what they're specifically interested in, it might be the cryptocurrency, or it might be house hacking, or it might be index fund investing, or it might be mindset, developing their mindset. We have these specific topics, which we call groups, they can join and meet people who are even more niche, right? Even that want to talk about that topic all the time. And they can connect with them, and they hold each other accountable. They share resources. They answer each other's questions, or they learn together a lot of times. I'm in there as a facilitator or sometimes a mentor, which is really fun to watch them just explode. Once they're together, it's like throwing fire or throwing gasoline on the fire. They just go nuts, right? It's fun to watch them go, wow. Once I'm around people who think like me, this journey is so much easier, and they just learn. Yeah. So that's kind of what it's about.
Yeah. I think what you're doing is awesome, because, there are, here in Maryland, they're really not teaching this as a general class. And I think it's something that's very important, because many times, we see in our society the amount of debt that people carry, because they're not, and it's not good debt, it's bad debt. And
yeah.
They don't understand it as adults. So I think it's great that you're doing this at a much younger age for people, to help them hopefully break that cycle.
Yeah. What's really interesting, the young people in the group and that I've connected with, they come from all different walks of life. It is really amazing. And some of them have parents, like you were mentioning. A lot of adults are financially illiterate. It's just the way that our education system is set up, unfortunately. And that's slowly changing, but it's going to take a lot of time. So some of them have parents who are very financially literate. They get money. They've been investing. They've been building passive income. They've been doing a lot of great, they manage their debt well, and they're passing that along to their son or daughter. And they come to the community with that as a motivation. They look at their parents and they say, I want to do what my parents are doing. But then on the other end of the flip side of the coin, I have young people whose parents are horrible with money. And they look at their parents and say, all I know is I don't want to struggle. I don't want to stress. I don't want to have this horrific relationship with money that it's always this. And they come to the community trying to be the opposite of their parents. So it serves both. But it's interesting to see that there isn't really a typical Sheeks Freak member. They come from all walks of life.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. So you have a book that's getting ready to launch, and I was lucky enough to get an early copy of it. Can you tell our listeners about the book and what motivated you to write this book?
Yeah, I'd love to. Thanks. The book is called First to a Million, A Teenager's Guide to Achieving Early Financial Freedom. So it kind of rolls into four of my passions. I love working with young people. I love personal finance, education, and promoting and advocating for financial literacy. The early financial independence movement, or some people call it the FIRE movement. There's a lot of that in there. I mean, the book is about how to achieve early financial freedom. So it is a personal finance book, but it's kind of a higher level personal finance. I do go over some basic topics, of course, because they have to have that foundation. But then we go into these other topics of what are some things you can do differently so that you don't have to work till you're 65. Not that there's anything wrong with that. If you want to do that, I write that's a very noble way to live, and it works, and it's proven, and there's nothing wrong with that path. But there are other options. You should know about the other options so that you can make the decision that's best for your journey and your life. And then I think I lost. So personal finance, early financial independence, working with young people, and then real estate investing is another passion of mine. It is not a real estate investing book, but I definitely touch on it in a couple chapters.
Right. How
getting involved in investing in real estate is not difficult. It's not as hard as most people think. You don't have to be an old, rich person to invest in real estate. Some of our members, not some, many of our members are investing in real estate very early, 19, 20, 21 years old, buying their second property in their early 20s as investors. But in that book, I say, if real estate investing is not for you, that's okay. There's still all these other strategies that you can employ to find yourself, way, way, way in front of your peers who never get this information. So I'm excited. The book launches December 6th. There's also a workbook that goes with it. And honestly, Gary, I think the workbook is the more valuable of the two. The workbook it tells them what to do, when to do, and how to do it. It's the actual action steps, which I think a lot of times people miss that. The book is great, and I think everyone should read it. Even adults who are just new to early financial independence, they'll get a ton out of that book, even though it says the word teenager on it. It doesn't matter. But the book is just a book. It's the workbook that says, all right, in these 4 months, let's say your senior year of high school, second semester, here are the 10 things that you need to do. Here's how you should do it. Here's why you should do it. And when you're done, you get to check it off. And so it's a very interactive, it's a workbook, more like a playbook that guides them through what to do. It's like over about a 5-year period of time, and they're divided into 4-month increments that we call freak phases. So it makes it super easy. As a teacher, that's kind of what I'm trained to do, is articulate exactly what to do, when to do it.
I like also in the book, you have some of your freaks that are in there, and you talk about them and what motivated them, what got them going, kind of where they are. And I think that's pretty powerful when you're looking at, some of the reading about some of these people that are 24 and are financially independent, and are already getting, passive income, which I think it's pretty incredible, to have that. And I think, like you said, I think the workbook piece of it just really, again, many times I always talk to people and they put together a business plan, but then that business plan goes on the shelf and they never really act on it, type thing, where this workbook is great, because not only do you talk about it, but you've also given them now a roadmap to help them for success.
Yeah. And the original idea was, well, actually the first idea I had was a checklist, just a simple checklist, like 1 or 2 pager, how to go from high school student to owning your first house hack real estate investment property. And then that grew into the workbook. There was so much in there that I had to break off half of it and make the book first, so the workbook would make sense, honestly. So they definitely go together. And if people are interested in buying this, it's a great holiday gift. If you have a teenager in your life, or a teenager you like to support or more, you can go buy the book and the workbook together. You get a nice discount if you buy both, and perfect stocking stuffer. And then encourage them to read it, or maybe read them first before you give it to the teenager. I think it's an easy read. There's a lot of chapters. There's 29 chapters in the book, but I made them short because, as we all know, teenagers don't have long attention spans anymore. So they're short, easy to read chapters. I think an adult could breeze through it in 2 or 3 days, then give it to the teenager and go through the book with them, or check in with how they're doing. It can change their life, or maybe they read it and say, well, this is not for me, but now at least they know that they have options.
Yeah, I mean, when I got it, I read it in a weekend, and my son is 13, so this is kind of going to be one of his Christmas presents, because he's kind of gotten into like coin collecting and starting to learn about silver and gold and things like that. So I think this is going to be perfect for him, and then the workbook would really kind of, like you said, put it over the top and help him out. I think any adult, in my opinion, should read this also, because it breaks it down. Even if you're not a finance person at all, this will definitely help you understand a lot of the basics that people don't know.
Yeah, I think, one of the superpowers that teachers have, and I think I've mastered over the years, is to articulate instructions. Because if you have 30 kids in your class, when you teach a lesson, you need to make sure all of those kids understand your topic, your strategy, whatever you're teaching. So you get really good at explaining things in a way that is really easy to understand. And when I wrote the book, that obviously carried over to the book. So
Right.
I think there's some intentionality to this, but I think a lot of finance people out there, and Gary, before we talked, you touched on this, who don't have the best intentions,
Yep.
financial advisors and mortgage lenders, they try to make finance complicated because there's an incentive for them to do so. If people think that they can't manage their own money, make their own investments, then they hire somebody to do it for them. And these people get paid really well to manage money. But it really is not that complicated. It can be if you get in, if you start amassing a lot of wealth, but in the starting phases, it's really just about, maybe earning a little extra income, having a good savings rate, saving that money and investing it in a couple of super simple, just through a brokerage account in an index fund, and you're doing better than 90% of Americans at that point. And so if someone's overwhelmed with all of the information out there about finances, I don't care how old they are, this book is going to lay it out in a really easy, if a freshman in high school can understand it, then I think pretty much anyone can. And that was the goal when I wrote the book. So I think it could be really helpful to anyone. But again, if you have a teenager in your life, great holiday gift.
Right. I agree with you. Again, when's the launch date?
December 6th. So I think this might air a little bit before that. You can pre-order it now. But December 6th, they both will be available and they'll ship right away.
Okay. And where can the listeners find it?
Best place to go is biggerpockets.com/teen. And I can send you that link, Gary, to put in the show notes. Yep. I think, it'll be available other places like Amazon shortly after the 6th, maybe mid-December-ish.
Right. Okay, great. Appreciate that. We're running short on time now. What have I not asked you that you wish I had?
Yeah, there's so many things we could talk about. I think we covered all the basics. With young people, it's just about, if there's parents out there that have teenagers, Gary, and this, you got a 13-year-old, probably better than anyone. The advice I would give parents is to include your kids from a very early age, but definitely in their early teens. 13 is a perfect age. Include them in the small business that is your family household. Include them in all of the money decisions. Sit down with them when you pay your monthly bills. Have them click the mouse. Explain to them, open your books to your kids. Show them how much money you have coming in, how much money's going out, why you have to save. Pay your credit card bill with them. Go through your credit card statement and show them where the money's going. Plan your vacation with them. Have them budget the vacation. Talk about money at the dinner table, on the way to the soccer game, when you're walking around the neighborhood, and expose young people to money, because unfortunately, like we talked about earlier, they are probably not going to get this in their schools. Again, that's slowly changing, which is good, but it's going to be a long road to hoe. It's not an easy one, unfortunately, to just snap your fingers and say, all right, personal finance is going to be a requirement for all high schools in the United States. I wish it was, but it's just not going to happen. So if they don't get it from their parents, they're going to be like me and probably you, Gary, where you're just thrown out there into the real world and it's trial by fire and you make a lot of mistakes and you don't actually start figuring things out until you're maybe in your 30s, which unfortunately you've lost the best decade, your 20s, to really start earning, saving, and investing. And at that point, you're behind the 8 ball. So yeah, just talk to your kids about money, put some incentives in there, and change the world.
That's great. So for any of our listeners that are listening, we already talked about the book and the workbook and when that's being launched and everything. If they want to get their kids involved in your program, how can they get involved with the program, get to the website and everything else?
Yep. So I'll send you this link to sheeksfreaks.com. SheeksFreaks, to get in. So the website has a ton of great free information on it for anybody and everybody. It's specific to young people, but lots of blog articles, videos, recommended books, things like that. But then at the top, there's a link to join the Sheeks Freaks community, which is where that's where the app comes in. And there is a free membership level, which has a ton of value. Again, I just want to provide value for young people. So the free membership will always be there. There also is a paid membership level, which is not super expensive. It's just a yearly fee. If any of the young people out there want to join the paid membership level, then I'll give them a nice discount. If they listen to this podcast, when they're checking out, in the discount code, just put the word Gary, Gary, all lowercase, Gary, and they'll get a nice discount on that first year membership. And look forward to seeing them in there.
Great. I appreciate, you offering that to our listeners. I'm definitely with you in thinking that we need to educate our kids more and more on this. And I'm going to say even the adults need to get this book and read it. I've read it and I learned stuff from it. And I've been doing what I'm doing for quite a number of years. So I think it is, something that's very important to do. So Dan,
Thanks,
we really appreciate your time and everything that you're doing with this. And I look forward to talking to you more in the future.
Me too, Gary. Thanks for having me on. Super appreciate it. Keep doing what you're doing. I think we're fighting, the same fight here, just trying to spread the knowledge, help people out, make better decisions, improve their life. So I love what you're doing with your podcast, and yeah, hope to talk to you soon.
Great. Today, our guest was Dan Sheeks, who's a high school teacher in Denver, Colorado, and the founder of Sheeks Freaks.
This show has been produced by Market Domination, LLC. To discover how you can have your own show completely done for you and turn it into a real published book and become the authority in your marketplace, go to www.marketdominationllc.com/podcast offer.